explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. Today is Wednesday, so I am joined by the lovely Ashe Epp. How you doing, Ashe?
Good. I just finished reading your breaking news over on the Badlands Substack. Very exciting. Brian Lupa, her breaking news. And good stuff. Are we going to talk about it today?
Oh, we for sure will talk about that today. We'll turn this into like a mini Why We Vote today.
Love it.
But yeah, that was a shocking story. I gave this exclusive to Badlands, and it's going to be, I don't know. I think it's a huge deal. I think it is a very, very big deal. And Ashe and I, actually, Ashe is the perfect person to unpack this with us, because not only do we have the election aspect of this, I think there's a big legal implication in what happened in this, a really big legal implication. So yeah, we'll definitely talk about that here in a few minutes. Got a couple articles to get through before we get to that point. And also we've got some sponsors that we got to talk about. So let's go ahead and talk about our friends over at my computer is on the fritz right now.
I have the read if you want me to read it.
Yeah, you go ahead and do it.
Gold has exploded to all-time highs, surging over 70% this year. And silver, it's on fire, rocketing more than 150%, shattering records and outpacing everything. It's adjusting a little bit, but it's gonna run again, I think. From everyday Americans to billionaires and central banks, everyone is rushing to these timeless safe havens. That's why Badlands has partnered with the award-winning Gold Co. They make protecting your savings with real gold and silver straightforward and stress-free. If you're serious about safeguarding your future, go to badlandsgold.com today. You'll get their free gold and silver kit, and you could qualify for up to 10% in free bonus silver. The unbeatable offer is happening right now. Act fast. Visit badlandsgold.com or click the link in the description. One last time, that's badlandsgold.com.
All right. And yes, I also think gold and silver are going to rebound nicely. There were a lot of people that were dumping, institutional dumps, so to speak. All right, so let's go ahead. Well, first and foremost, guys, if you have not done so yet, please smash that thumbs up. We've got a lot of competition in this hour now with Bongino coming back. And I sent Ashe, I listened to his first welcome back show because he had President Trump on, and I sent Ashe a clip of that. And there's an interesting part in there where President Trump is talking about a 71-year-old woman that might have cancer in Colorado prison, but that she was in prison for like ballot harvesting. Like she was in prison for
whistleblowing on people stuffing ballot boxes. Yeah, that was weird. Do you have that clip?
I don't have that clip pulled up. I don't.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with the case that he's talking about. I think we both thought, he's talking about Tina Peters when he first starts talking about the 70-year-old woman in prison, but the details that he provides does not sound like the case of Tina Peters.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Now Tina Peters, wasn't there the reason she ran something along those lines? Like there was ballot stuffing or something. I seem to remember a story like that.
So there were questions about municipal elections and whether or not their outcomes were legitimate, which I think helped, as I remember it, was one of the motivating factors for her to run. There was also a ballot box kind of
Holy crap,
scan.
man.
What? Are you okay? Oh,
my computer is on the fritz right now, man.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, you're fine. It's just me.
You were frozen with kind of grumpy face. So there was also a situation where a bunch of ballots were left in ballot boxes, or allegedly left in ballot boxes in Mesa County, that was positioned as Tina Peters being set up. So the people that ran the office beforehand had left some ballot boxes. There's drop boxes kind of all over the place, and had left ballots in some of them. So like Tina Peters hadn't run an election yet, but there were ballots left in drop boxes from the last election that had been run, and she got blamed for it. There was that kind of stuff, but nothing matching the details that President Trump said in the interview.
Okay, that's really strange. I don't know what the heck is going. My computer never does this.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Am I just frozen? Because all of my screens are frozen. Okay. This is really strange. I never have issues with like this ever. Huh.
You want to reboot your computer? I'll read everyone your article.
No. It's good. It's good. It's coming back. All right. So we'll start out with this breaking news. Mitch McConnell, 83, hospitalized with flu-like symptoms over the weekend. His prognosis is positive, and he is grateful for the excellent care that he received, according to the spokesperson. So just a little news there. But so this is an interesting story that just came out from the New York Post. The Epstein files came out, and we now have learned that Jeffrey Epstein was cooperating with federal prosecutors just 2 weeks before he, quote unquote, suicided himself.
Allegedly.
Very interesting here. Yeah, allegedly. From the New York Post, Jeffrey Epstein lawyers met with feds to discuss cooperating in sex trafficking case just 2 weeks before his death, according to FBI records. It says Epstein was set to potentially cooperate with the feds in his sprawling sex trafficking case, with lawyers from both sides huddling just 2 weeks before he killed himself in jail. Allegedly. Federal prosecutors met with lawyers on July 29th, 2019, when his camp, quote, in very general terms, discussed the possibility of a resolution of the case and the possibility of the defendant's cooperation, according to an FBI record. And then they put out new photos. And I'll tell you what, man, going from that photo to that photo, he lost a lot of hair post-mortem. A lot of hair. I know everybody's looking at the ears and stuff. Obviously, you can't see him there, but another document references the same meeting with the feds, but notes that, quote, defense counsel did not make a specific proposal, and they did not indicate what the nature of Epstein's cooperation might be. So that's the extent of it. We just know that he was cooperating with the feds beforehand. And I think Ash and I both have long speculated that Epstein may be still above Earth.
Yeah. Well, this is my most hopium-filled theory that, and it's, this very dramatic kind of courtroom drama scene where you have, the worst people in the world on trial for doing the worst things imaginable, and they think that they're fine because there's no witnesses, and then Jeffrey Epstein walks in, bursts open the courtroom doors, and testifies to all of their criminal conduct.
I don't know that would work. You'd be concealing a witness from co-counsel.
Not if it was used for impeachment. You can just pull him out.
Yeah, to impeach him. Yeah, you could do that. You can see. I can see that. Yeah.
Like, I never even met Jeffrey Epstein, and he walks in. We met back in, So I know it's not how it happens or how it's going to go down. But I do think that a lot of these people likely celebrated when it was reported that he killed himself in prison, because they felt that, the lone witness to their portfolio of criminal conduct was taken care of. And it is, I know John gets all crazy about us suggesting that people could be in WITSEC, but WITSEC is a thing. And, if there's somebody that could potentially shake the foundations of the system that could potentially be in WITSEC, it's Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm with you on it. And the Luke Rudowski drone footage, overhead. I think it was Rudowski. The drone footage overhead after the quote unquote death is, that's very looks very similar to Jeffrey Epstein. So yeah, that would be fascinating if he just comes out of nowhere. I also think, and I've said this for a long time, that Ghislaine Maxwell became a state's witness a long time ago as well. And that's why she's getting the preferential treatment in some of the prisons. And I think we might eventually at some point see President Trump commute her sentence.
Yeah. John says, I know WITSEC is a thing. I just don't believe everybody who dies goes there. Fair enough. You know how all dogs go to heaven, like all criminal pedophiles go to WITSEC? No.
I sure hope not.
Yeah.
I sure hope not. All right, so let's
one more thing on that is that there's this Bannon footage that's coming out, allegedly 15 hours of Jeffrey Epstein talking to Steve Bannon. I watched the 2 hours that were dropped, which the internet was saying he didn't say anything of substance, he didn't say anything of value, and that was crazy to me, that response to that video, because his video was filled with kind of his perspective on the global financial system and specifically the 2008 crisis, which is speculated that he was one of the architects that of the mortgage market that kind of led to that. He blames Bill Clinton. There's a whole bunch of fascinating stuff in there. What you don't get is him talking about raping children, and I find it weird that that's the only thing that people want to learn about this, because the guy was deeply embedded within the institutions and systems and processes of the people that stole the world and broke it for the rest of us. And the salacious allegations and proven facts in a lot of cases about him are heinous and despicable, and I want justice for those things too. But the other stuff is not important. It's critically important, and when you follow the money, you get to all the worst people in the world. The people I think that should be on trial when Jeffrey Epstein comes back from the dead.
JP Morgan pretty much is on trial right now. They're being sued, heavily over a lot of this stuff. Bannon's background is in banking, Goldman Sachs and all that. So it makes sense that that's what he's prodding on. I would also imagine that before that interview, there was an agreement that they're not going to go to certain, topics. I'm sure, and I haven't listened to the 2 hours yet. I plan on it. But I'm sure that you'll probably get like some kind of like overview of the 2008 case against him. I don't think you'll get much after that. Bannon's not going to, I don't think he'll get out of him like, oh yeah, these are my co-conspirators or anything like that.
In those 2 hours that were released, you only get Steve Bannon saying people who, he's talking about Jeffrey Epstein being in prison, right? And he says people who commit the kinds of crimes that you commit, we hear that they're murdered in prison. Essentially, he doesn't use those words, but that's basically what he's asking. And Epstein says no, and that's it. That's the only exchange in those 2 hours about the alleged criminal conduct with the pedophilia. It's all banking the whole 2 hours.
That's interesting. It is also interesting that the attorneys were talking with him at the same time that Marchenko story in Mexico was coming out, and the ambassador Wayne impregnating an 11-year-old. And did you see that story? No. Colonel Counter and I were all over this story over the weekend. Oh yeah, a story came out. There was a detective, or excuse me, a man in Mexico. We don't know what his profession was, but we've identified him. He passed away last year in February. And he was communicating back and forth with an NYPD detective, and it plays out like a spy thriller. The guy was like, I'm down here with, and they name names, a federal police officer in the Mexican government named Jorge Gonzalez. And we've got this guy, Richard Marcinko, who is the first ever U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6 commander back in the 70s, and like a pretty well-known figure, author. He did some time for some fraud and whatnot. And in the letters back and forth with detective, I think his name was Walter Harkin, He was a 33-year NYPD detective, and he's part of the Epstein task force. And going back and forth, he's writing these emails, and he's like, yeah, we've got this story. It corroborates everything that you've been saying, but adds a whole new dynamic and all this other stuff. We've been attacked by U.S. American agents here. They shot a judge that was presiding over our trial for a child sex trafficking case. My partner, George Gonzalez, has killed 2 American agents and wounded 5 others in these attacks. And like this whole like crazy thing. And so I'm reading this and I'm like, wow, this is insane. And then he asked Harkin, he says, who in your office knows that we're communicating? Do you have anybody CIA, NSA, or State Department in your office that would know this? And then while this thread is going on between the two of them, it goes on for like a couple weeks. While it's going on, the guy, his name's Ken Turner, his nephew is murdered in a mass shooting in Dayton, Ohio, while all this is going on. And so it's just a really, I don't know if anybody ever investigated it. The police officer, the detective, retired like 3 days after President Trump was reelected. Kenneth Turner died. Marcinko died in 2021. And they claim they had him in custody in Mexico. Just a fascinating story. I mean, at best, it's a spy novel, or at worst, it's a spy novel. At best, there's truth to it. And then the biggest part is that they claim that the Clinton ambassador to Mexico, Obama ambassador to Mexico, I think his name was Earl Wayne, allegedly was at a party that Epstein and Marcinko put together and impregnated an 11-year-old girl. And the son's DNA is 100% matched to Wayne. But instead of Wayne serving a life sentence in Mexico for doing that, a U.S. Marine took his place in prison in Mexico.
Oh, I did hear about that part.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized what the crime was, but I did hear about the part of, someone, a Marine serving his sentence for him.
Yeah.
Like a pitch hitter.
Yeah, it's a really crazy story, and they took it pretty seriously because there's a lot of documents on Marcinko and Harkin, or not Harkin, Kenneth Turner in that story. But all right, let's jump into this story here from Paul Sperry. And Ash, you get a little hat tip on this one. You called it. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche did not tell the White House he was removing Ed Martin from the weaponization working group after he told Martin he was dismissing him as director during a December 10th meeting at DOJ, even though Trump personally appointed Martin. A source familiar with White House operations told me the Russiagate Accountability Unit has been effectively idle for the past 55 days. And this reporting is being, kind of doubled down on all over the place. So I don't know if I don't think he's been put back in that position yet, but it is very interesting that Blanche went out and did this on his own. And then what does Martin do the day after all of this story drops? He posts a picture of him and President Trump. And
Good morning, America. How are you?
Yeah.
Shaking hands with the president in the Oval. Yeah. This is, there has been a sustained, and I don't know, right? I don't know if Todd Blanche is, evil mastermind that so many conservative influencers claim he is. But the operation to paint him as such is sustained and consistent from the same groups of people. There's a new allegation about Todd Blanche every 5 minutes, it seems. We heard it about the Epstein files. We've heard it about election fraud. Now we're here about Ed Martin. That Todd Blanche is just this rogue Democrat, and often accompanied with allegations of he's a Democrat, like he was a Democrat prior. So was President Trump. So were a lot of people. So were a bunch of the Badlands hosts. Are they bad guys too for that? Because Democrats and Republicans aren't real. It's a uniparty, but there is a sustained operation to paint Todd Blanche as this stumbling block inside of the administration, attached to Pam Bondi, and she's a criminal too, right? And this happened, like, I'm exaggerating, but it feels like the day after Inauguration Day, there was a sustained operation. Maybe they gave it a month, but sustained operation to cast fear, uncertainty, and doubt on particularly the DOJ, but also CISA and the weaponization task force and other things. Yeah. And that's notable to me when Tulsi, Starl, thank you. Tulsi is another one. They're going after. It's similar to the Ralph Pizzulo book, it seems like people are afraid of, trying to get ahead of, discredit these administration officials because of what's coming. That's the sense I get. Now, I don't know if that's true. Maybe Todd Blanche is the world's greatest villain, but I'm skeptical of the people telling me that story. So I'm skeptical of the story.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if it's so much as because they're afraid of what's coming, although they might, that's got to be in their mind, right? That they've got something up their sleeve, especially
You think that's correct about the Pizzula book?
Yeah. I think, well, oh yeah, the Pizzula book. Yeah, for sure. I think that book is absolutely getting out in front of something.
Same people. So that's kind of how I get there.
Fair enough. But I think the real reason that there is such a strong resistance to them is because they're the outsiders. They're not the people that have rose up through the ranks and made it to that position, and they haven't, buried bodies along the way. So nobody knows where their bodies are buried. So they're not subject to as much blackmail. I'm sure there is blackmail on all these people, the kill folders, so to speak. But I think that's the one thing, is bringing in these outsiders like that is horrifying to them because it breaks the system. When we talk about the deep state, yes, the deep state is John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey. Yes, that, Adam Schiff, of course that's the deep state, but
all Democrats. They're all Democrats, right?
Well, but the real functioning deep state, though, is the bureaucrats below them. It's the people, 2 or 3 levels below them that are able to perpetuate this and continue this going on. And this outlives presidential, terms. This is going to outlive Donald Trump's term. The thing he's got to figure out how to do is how to put guardrails in place to prevent this when he leaves. Right. And so, bucking against the system right now is all they've got. And Ed Martin, I think, is one of those people that they had to push back on. Tulsi Gabbard is another one. I think Kash Patel is. You and I read Government Gangsters, and there's no doubt in my mind after reading that book that Trump gives him, full trust and endorsement, and that Kash knows what needs to be done, but it's extremely difficult to do it when you're one person controlling an organization of, 30, 40, 50,000 people. And, a good chunk of those people are still leftovers from prior administrations that don't see eye to eye and don't want the system to go away as it stands.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I don't think that anybody would disagree with you that the deep state wants to frustrate the Trump administration. I don't think anybody would disagree that the unelected and unaccountable bureaucrats that just roll over from administration to administration, non-political, I'm using that term loosely, but that they are, a very important part of the deep state. I think where people get really uncomfortable is when you suggest that the sustained effort to frustrate certain aspects of the administration and specific players, Todd Blanche, Pam Bondi, Tulsi Gabbard, Ed Martin, Gautam McCullough, that there is a sustained effort. When you realize that some of your favorite conservatives are on the same side that you would call the deep state in any other application, that makes people very uncomfortable. And it's where we end up with but you don't believe so-and-so stuff. And my answer is always no. I don't trust journalists or CIA operatives who only just admitted that they're CIA operatives. I consume the story, evaluate the facts, and whether or not it is believable. And Brian and I took a bunch of crap for the Pizzula book because we disputed it before we read it, right? Because the story we were being told about it was ridiculous and detached from the known history in the country. And then we pulled in Colonel Towner, who just confirmed, all of. Yeah, absolutely. But you don't believe these, my favorite election integrity person that I've followed since 2020. Are you suggesting that they're lying to me? Well, bro just told you he was lying to you. Like, he just admitted that he's been a different person the whole time. And when asked about prior statements, I was fibbing back then. But I'm not going to talk about my time in the CIA, and people are still lapping it up. Yeah. And I have no respect for that.
If you guys aren't watching Badlands Book Club, it is absolute fire right now with Colonel Towner. And, I said yesterday at the end of the show that thank God we had Colonel Towner on, because me and Ash would have been able to navigate some of the lies and some of the fibs.
The election stuff, certainly.
Yeah.
We would have focused on the election stuff, but there's so much more.
But yeah, she brings the perspective of, just a complete manipulation and propaganda in that book. Absolutely absurd. So before we get in, we're going to jump into the election stuff now. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get a word from another sponsor here. Waiting for the pop up. Got to make sure we're getting things right over here. All right, there we go. When was the last time you guys woke up actually feeling rested, or you got through the day without feeling totally stressed out? Over 50% of adults say they'd feel better if they got more sleep, and stress is often that biggest barrier. And that's why CBD from CB Distillery makes so much sense. CB Distillery has natural solutions for sleep and stress that can help break that vicious stress/sleep cycle. And everything from CB Distillery is premium quality, third-party tested, and free from artificial dyes or fillers. They're the source that I trust, and so do 2 million other happy customers. You can shop by benefit, whether you want better sleep, less stress, improved focus, pain relief after workouts, or even something for your pets. It's all right there. I take the tinctures. My pets take the tinctures. I take the gummies, and Ash has got me taking the gummies. So if you're ready to start sleeping better, stressing less, and just feeling good again, check out CBD from CB Distillery. Visit cbdistillery.com and use promo code Badlands for 20% off. Again, that's cbdistillery.com. Promo code Badlands, cbdistillery.com. Specific product availability depends on individual state regulations.
I got 25% off.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You said 20.
25%
25% off, guys. So head over to cbdistillery.com and get your own back.
Somebody fact check her on that. I don't think I said that.
I said 20.
All right, so let's get into the election portion. I freaking loved this clip right here because it's telling like a 155th truth. So Tommy Tupperville here is telling 155th of the truth. Check this clip out.
And then, of course, President Trump wants same-day voting, mail ballots, get rid of these voting machines. There's a half a dozen people, whether it's the House or Senate, Larry, that are up here as we speak, that did not get elected. It was all bogus. Because we've seen the evidence, and if we don't straighten that out, you're going to see a lot more of it this fall, and it's just going to get worse and worse with the American people saying, listen, we got all y'all up there, and you don't do anything to straighten it out. We want closed borders, and we want fair elections. Those two things they are demanding, and as Republicans, we had better to listen to them and do that, or we're going to lose next fall.
A lot of states, don't even have an ID picture. And by the way, I vote in the state of Connecticut. You don't need an ID. You don't need.
Okay, so from there on, we're going to get into, the ID and all that. And all of this is kind of in conjunction with the SAVE Act that's coming out right now. Harry Enton is even jumping on this. We talked about this yesterday, but he's jumping on the numbers.
We're just going to move on. So first of all, I want to comment on that video. And second of all, you have been fact checked and you did say 20%. Okay. The Tommy Tuberville thing, he says there's half a dozen people that were not elected. Here's the problem. Fraud vitiates everything. There's 435 House members. I don't know if there's empty seats, but 435 that are illegitimate, that are not elected because there's fraud in the system that has been unaccounted for, and they all came together to obstruct it. There's 100 senators that fall into the same bucket. And we are not going to have this. Well, Jasmine Crockett wasn't elected, but me, Tommy Tuberville, I'm totally legitimate. Nope. The system is broken. It was the 2020 outcome of the election was manipulated, and we haven't fixed anything since then. So 2022, 2024, the 2026 midterms, if we don't do anything to them, they're all illegitimate. And we're not, we cannot be in a position of allowing the illegitimate legislators to determine who's legitimate and who's not in a system that is has already been proven to have been to have been illegitimate. So they're all illegitimate. It's not just a half a dozen. Don't let them get away with this.
Yep. I said the same thing yesterday. I shared it and said the entire Congress is illegitimate. Every elected official, quote unquote, elected official on the machines, including President Trump, is until proven otherwise. Tough pill to swallow. Do I think Trump won? Yes, absolutely. But black box
2020
voting,
also.
but yeah, but with black box voting with protected source code and protected physical ballots means that no one can authenticate their victory. Plain and simple.
And all of the things that these people did while they were since 2020 in illegitimate. So remember, the people that were elected to the Senate in 2020, this is the end of their term, right? The 2026 midterms is their next election, or their seat is up. So they're the senators elected in 2020, the ones we're going to talk about with Brian's article that big problem with those senators. I personally think that everything that they did since 2020 is overt acts and a conspiracy, because they had the ability to stop it. They didn't because of the insurrection and all of the other things. Politically, this is a political question and it was untenable for us. Well, guess what? You're illegitimate. So I think at some point it becomes criminal.
And not only when you say illegitimate, yeah, sure, you have Republicans that are running for office in a 90% Republican district. They're going to win, but you don't know if they won the primary.
Yep.
And Madison Cawthorn comes to mind here because there was a full-on assault against Madison Cawthorn. Now, whether or not you like him, I kind of liked him when he was in office. That was the young guy that was in the wheelchair. And they went off on him because he's, was talking about the cocaine-fueled orgies that went on in D.C. And, to be fair, the guy that replaced him, that won the primary against him, his sister listens to our show. And, I've had conversations with her in the past about it. And I'm not saying that the guy's not MAGA or anything like that, but that's where they steal the elections. That's the most concerning place that you can imagine is in the primaries, because then you can put in the most glaring person in office, in the position to run and is going to win handedly against, the minority party in that particular district. And then you get that establishment. That's how Lindsey Graham wins. That's how Mitch McConnell wins. That's how a lot of these people win in, plus 30 Republican districts and vice versa for Democrats. And so, you really, really got to watch the primaries. And I told you this was going to kind of turn into a why we vote part 2.
Yeah. Well, you remember in 2022, there was supposed to be a red wave.
Yep.
And everybody was, thinking there was going to be a red wave. Those primaries, in my opinion, certainly here in my state, were particularly manipulated. And what we ended up with at the general election was a true controlled opposition dynamic, right? You had Pam Anderson and Jenna Griswold running against each other, for example. They're the same person with a different letter after their name.
Big time. So we'll just play a couple seconds of this. Harry Enton talking about the same numbers we talked about yesterday regarding the SAVE Act, just wildly popular among all Americans. All Americans. Again, find me one issue that is before Congress that you have 85% white support, 82% Latino support, and 76% black support.
So voter ID, just so people understand, is the idea that someone shows a photo ID when they go to vote, when they go to cast their actual ballot. Because there's a separate discussion right now about needing a passport or a certificate to register to vote. But the polling is all on voter ID showing an ID to vote.
Showing a photo ID to vote. And the American people are with Nicki Minaj. Because what are we talking about here? So take a look here. Favor voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote.
What about by party? What's the party breakdown?
Yeah, normally you might expect, hey, there'd be a big divide by party with Republicans really for it and Democrats really against it. But not really here. I mean, just take a look here. Favor photo ID to vote. You got 95% of Republicans, pretty much all of them. But even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. So again, Nicki Minaj posting that on X. And what you see is that the American people, actually, it's not really all that controversial. The American people are with Nicki Minaj, whether they are Republican or even if they are Democrats. We're talking about 7 in 10 Democrats.
All right, we can pretty much quit right there. So now the reason I played that before this next clip here is because there are way, way, way more important things that the Senate needs to be concerned with, Ash. And This man should never be elected to any position, not just a position of authority in the Senate, but never reelected again. Listen to this absurd justification for overlooking the SAVE Act.
Let's listen here. Try to outlast the Democratic minority under current rules. Do you have any expectation that you can succeed with that, given the enormous difficulty of doing that? In fact, the big majority have not been able to.
Right. Well, I guess, and I would just remind people that the coin in the realm in the Senate is floor time. There's a finite amount of it, and we have a lot of things we have to do. There's a housing bill that's awaiting action, hopefully a market structure bill, possibly permitting reform, farm bill, highway bill. You can go right down the list. Russia sanctions. There are a whole bunch of things that could be teed up for action on the floor of the Senate. And so you have to make some judgments, and the conference will have a conversation about that. I've committed to that we will talk about that idea and determine whether or not what the conference's views are about it and how they want to proceed. As I said, we will vote on the SAVE Act, but exercising or triggering a talking filibuster has ramifications, implications that I think everybody needs to be aware of. So we will have those discussions, but that's obviously ties the floor up for an indefinite amount of time with not only unlimited debate, but also unlimited amendments.
All right,
I mean, if you want to defeat that, let the Democrats filibuster this. Let them stand up there and filibuster it. You go up there, take that printout from CNN, blow it into a big ass poster, and just stand up there the whole time they're filibustering it, and you will make every news channel prime time. That will be what the Democrats have to run on in 2026 for the midterms. That is what you should be doing.
Great.
There is nothing that he just named right there that is anywhere near as important as a simple bill requiring voter ID for federal elections, and the states will follow suit. You can't make it for the states, but there's nothing there's nothing more important than that. Period.
Yeah, if the states try to do something different, it creates huge headaches for them, right? Because they have to separate elections and treat federal elections differently. That creates
lose the funding.
For them. But yeah, and they lose the funding. Excellent point. We just watched Harry Enten show that since 2018, this issue has been north of 75% across all demographics. The American people want real elections, and voter ID is one remedy for fake elections, right? It's on the fake voter side. If we prove who these people are at the time that they're voting, now SAVE Act doesn't save elections. And we argue with people on the internet who are simple and think that there's some magic bullet legislation that's going to pass that's going to make elections real. That's very stupid. But there's the people want to go back. They want to go back to where they don't have to worry about government and everything's fixed and they can go back to doing what they were doing. That's over. We're not going back. That being self-governed means you have to pay attention to what the people that are representing are doing for you. SAVE Act is I think a good piece of legislation focused on voter eligibility and registration. It is not a cure for election fraud. It is not the silver bullet answer, but it's a good piece of legislation and it should pass. Also, based on those polling numbers, and I think we all know this is kind of where, if you look around, people are concerned about elections in a way that they haven't really ever been. So 2020, it started, it was around 30% of the population thought there was an issue with elections. Now, at least on the matter of voter ID, we're north of 75%. So that is, to your point, Brian, make them stand up there and argue against a policy that is popular with more than 75% of the population, regardless of demographics. They'll lose the midterms. And the midterms is everything, right? We're so concerned about the midterms. I think having the Democrats filibuster to stop voter ID when voter ID is popular with 3/4 of the nation is a great plan. But Thune is an idiot. So
yeah, Go Dog Go put his number in the chat, and I figured I'd just highlight it here for a minute. If you guys want to call him and tell him that every single thing he just listed in that Fox News press conference doesn't matter if we don't have free and fair elections, and we do not have free and fair elections. Now let's go ahead and I'll take that down there, and let's go ahead and jump into this story that I put out this morning. So President Trump's RICO case in Fulton County the grand jury transcripts have now been unsealed, which means we can read exactly what Nathan Wade and Fani Willis were working with when they decided to take the unprecedented action of indicting a former president and the front runner for the Republican nomination in the middle of an election cycle for president. From Badlands Media, grand jury testimony from Senator David Perdue suggests that Governor Brian Kemp halted the investigation into the 2020 election. Last month, Judge Scott McAfee lifted a protective order on the special grand jury transcripts in the state of Georgia versus Trump et al. On September 6th, 2022. Former Senator David Perdue, sat for a transcribed interview in front of the grand jury and was examined by Nathan Wade himself, among others. Nathan Wade asked Senator Perdue whether he agreed that the investigations by the Secretary of State's office, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and quote unquote numerous investigations showed nothing illegal happened in the State Farm Arena on election night in 2020. Perdue responded, "I agree that an investigation happened, yes." And he goes off on those transcripts. I have a post up right now about that.
You can feel him going, investigation.
Yes. I have a specific post up about that because he says that nobody investigated that the way it should have been investigated. And we have zero answers to any of the questions that we initially posed before any investigations took place. So then Wade fires back, quote, "I just want to flesh out for the grand jury what you mean, because it's a simple question. Did the GBI investigate those claims?" Now, the GBI is the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. Perdue responds, "Not to my knowledge, not to my satisfaction." Wade asked if Perdue, quote, "had reason to believe that the GBI would not have conducted a satisfactory investigation." The response from Perdue was shocking. Perdue claimed to have received a phone call in November 2021 from Vic Reynolds, then director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. Reynolds told Perdue, quote, "We are not going to investigate. The governor wants me to tell you why we're not going to investigate." Then in May of 2021, or Perdue revealed that in May of 2021, Reynolds was presented with evidence of ballot harvesting, quote, "video evidence and cell phone evidence, along with testimony and bank records that are corroborated." Perdue stated that Reynolds, quote, "looked at that and said it was compelling enough to be investigated," end quote. Perdue would go on to reveal that the reason Reynolds gave him for not investigating the compelling evidence was because Reynolds was, quote, "a team player. If the governor doesn't want to investigate, we're not going to investigate," end quote. Vic Reynolds was later, quote, "promoted to Superior Court Judge of Cobb County, an appointment made by Governor Brian Kemp in August of 2022, just 1 month before that testimony that we just read was given." And Reynolds would not be the first person promoted to a Superior Court judgeship that was involved in election investigations. But let's get back to the testimony. Donald Wakeford, a senator, asked Senator Perdue a follow-up question regarding the claim, and this was much later in the testimony, like way later. Quote, "You said that although Mr. Reynolds had received evidence that he felt was compelling enough to open an investigation, that he was not going to investigate because the governor told him not to?" That's one of the things he said. Yes, Perdue responded. So before we get into, well, let's cover the whole thing before we get into some other stuff in this. The evidence presented to Reynolds was also viewed by Senator Perdue, stems from a presentation made by True the Vote in May of 2021. According to a follow-up letter by Reynolds, the data presented identified 279 cell phones, which had made multiple trips to within 100 feet of a voter drop box. Reynolds, in a letter to True the Vote, claimed, "What has not been provided is any kind of evidence that ties these cell phones to ballot harvesting. For example, there are no statements of witnesses and no names of any potential defendants to interview." I mean, isn't that like police work? Isn't that the police's job to investigate that and find witnesses and whatnot? Yeah.
It's also not true, right?
It's not true.
Yeah.
Saliently, I don't know how to say that word. Saliently, it has been stated that a quote unquote source that can validate ballot harvesting, despite repeated requests, that source has not been provided to either the GBI or to the FBI. Now, I had a nice long conversation with Catherine Engelbrecht yesterday about this and asked her if she would give me a statement in response to this, specifically for this article, and she agreed, and this was her statement.
Read the whole statement, not just your highlight.
I'm going to read the whole thing. Vic Reynolds' description of what happened with the investigation is untrue. We met once with Vic Reynolds and his team in the governor's office in early 2021, where we talked them through our initial findings. After that meeting, we made repeated attempts to re-engage with the GBI and never received a response. The FBI offered to assist by hosting a secured database so that the GBI and other law enforcement agencies could access the information and preserve chain of custody across the states involved. They were clear, however, that they were not conducting an investigation and did not collect evidence. Given what followed, it's unclear that there was ever genuine effort on their part. The next time Mr. Reynolds surfaced was when a letter he wrote and addressed to us appeared in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. We did not receive the letter at the time it was published. When we later did, we responded directly to the governor. The suggestion that this stalled because we failed to provide an informant's name is not accurate. We were shut out early, and as public pressure mounted, the focus shifted to blaming us rather than examining the evidence. At no point was there a serious effort to ask the kinds of questions a real investigation would require. And that's the statement on that from True the Vote. So True the Vote, Catherine Engelbrecht stands by that they never reached out, despite Vic Reynolds saying we reached out repeatedly to try and get this witness. Now, the AJC story is also pretty interesting because the Atlantic Journal-Constitution received the same exact letter that was a response from GBI to True the Vote. They got it before True the Vote, and in the letter, GBI, which they knew AJC was going to publish, right? That's why you sent it to a left-wing. Yeah. When they published it, they doxed the investigators that True the Vote was working with. They put their names and phone numbers in the letter, and they didn't redact it at all. Yeah. And so I think True the Vote, and I'm trying to remember at this time, but I think True the Vote saw that as almost like a veiled threat, right? An intimidation of any witnesses that would potentially come forward that the GBI could potentially dox you. That's not part of this story that I wrote, but that's part of a story that I recall in that time frame back in 2022 when this all went down.
That's the tactics that were used across the country by people trying to stop inquiry into the election of 2020 was to intimidate and threaten and worse.
Yeah. But so the idea that Reynolds told Perdue, a U.S. senator, right? I mean, this is a U.S. senator we're talking about here. The idea that a U.S. senator was told by the director of GBI that I'm not going to investigate because the governor doesn't want me to, and I'm a team player. And then you go and you see this letter where he's saying, we asked repeatedly, and they put this out in the public because they wanted that image. They wanted that perception that
it's all been debunked.
It's all been debunked. GBI looked into this thoroughly. True the Vote, they backed down and said, well, we don't actually have a witness, and repeated attempts provided no witness. That's not true. That is simply not true.
It's the Georgia Bureau of Investigation lying to a U.S. senator and to the people of America.
And all of that information ultimately being bundled up into a prosecution against 18 Georgians and others, and a former and current president of the United States. And so I want to get back into it because there's more to this story. But before we get back into the Kemp thing, I think there could be implications for Nathan Wade here, because none of this was ever brought up that a sitting senator, well, he wasn't sitting at the time, he was former at the time, but sitting at the time, a sitting U.S. senator at the time was told by the director of the GBI that he's not investigating potential election fraud, ballot harvesting with credible evidence. He called it compelling evidence because the governor asked him not to. That's something that needs to be disclosed before you bring this RICO case. Are you frozen?
No.
Oh, if you want to comment, you know this legal stuff way better than I do, but I got to imagine that's prosecutorial misconduct.
Well, it's participating in the cover up. And that's the thing that I think is going, hope and believe is going to boomerang is the cover up, right? There's the old axiom that the cover up is worse than the crime. You have Nathan Wade, as you said, the investigator over the efforts to overturn the 2020 election. You have him coming into contact as a government government investigator, coming into possession of evidence of crime, massive crime, and he continues to cover it up. I also wonder, David Perdue said this, told his side of the story, talked about Governor Kemp. And it's not just that it's alleged that Governor Kemp said we're not going to investigate. It's that they then didn't investigate, but lied to the people about it, right? Lied to the public and said, no, we did investigate and it's all debunked. Everything is fine. That's just crazy election deniers and people who are, sore losers about losing an election. That's not prosecutorial discretion. That's a cover up. That's a crime. What Nathan Wade did is a crime. I think, maybe Perdue was threatened or something, and that's why he didn't go right from the grand jury to the media and tell the story. But, maybe he was being a team player too. And now the political wind has changed. The reality is that a lot of people in Georgia knew about this and did nothing and covered it up, allowed President Trump. Why didn't this Perdue testimony come out while President Trump was undergoing this RICO crucible in Fulton County? Why is it only now when it's safe and it seems like, the Democrats don't have any power to blow back on these people that were going to get this information? Why is Scott McAfee, and we'll talk about him in a second, right? But why is he declassifying this now? Why is this stuff happening now? And you could go with it's a plan, and this is the timing of the plan, maybe, but then part of the plan has to be that these people committed treason by covering up the crime.
Speaking of the plan, did I tell you how that grand jury testimony started?
Mm-mm.
Madam Foreperson, how many jurors are present? 17. 17. That's a good number. That's what Nathan Wade responded.
That before.
I can work with that number. So
yeah, this is the thing is that it's hard for me to see David Perdue as the hero of the story because he's known about this since 2020.
So
it's 2026, by the way.
Again, David Perdue is not on the bad graces of President Trump. He's currently the ambassador to China.
That is irrelevant.
Hold on.
That is an appeal to authority fallacy, Brian.
No. Hear me out. I mean, that's a very important ambassadorship. And you could say that's arguably the most important.
Fallacy. President Trump isn't upset about his treason, so we shouldn't be either.
Exactly. I think that this is playing out exactly how it had to play out. I've said this all along, that this is if Trump would have come out even in the run up to 2024, if he would have come out and exposed everything the way that it's being exposed right now and has been exposed. I mean, granted, you and I have been exposing it, but we didn't have the power that some of the voices that are speaking about it now, especially President Trump. Talking about it, we didn't have the power of Tulsi Gabbard, behind a DNI microphone talking about it. So
Harrison Deal doesn't get justice because it's part of the.
Oh, no. That's a whole different thing. Those are things that are outside the scope of what happened in 2020.
You don't think that played into Governor Kemp's decision not to investigate that led to all of this in the first place?
I personally think it did. Absolutely. You don't chalk those things. Going back to what we talked about with the Epstein files, where the guy's nephew was killed in a mass shooting. I dug into that mass shooting, and that kid, Logan Turner, was working at the place where the shooting occurred. So he was one of the very few people that was killed that was supposed to be there. Right? Everybody else is just random. I think it was at a Cracker Barrel. You're randomly at a Cracker Barrel for dinner and a mass shooting pops up. That's not as likely a planned thing as somebody that works there. That's if there is a conspiracy around a mass shooting, it would be the person that's supposed to be there. That's the target. And so you look at this and it's the same thing right here. The first investigator, suicide, like that's just very bizarre. Am I saying that's related? No, I'm not, but it's definitely suspicious. It's absolutely suspicious. The timing of it.
It would be quite astounding if it wasn't related, because as we've heard folks in Georgia, and as I think the record shows, Brian Kemp was considering investigating, looking into, had actually ordered some stuff to look into the elections. Then his daughter's boyfriend blows up, and then it's all dead. So it's all dead in the water. We're not doing this anymore. We're not going after this. The threats worked.
Well, they told him he was hit by a truck, and his engine block ended up like 2 football fields away from where the accident happened. That's not how engine blocks work. Yeah.
And then the investigator was suicided.
Yep. So let's get back into the article here. So an interesting history of failing upwards. Reynolds is not the first Georgia official to be involved in 2020 election investigations and go on to receive an appointment to a judgeship, nor is he the second. He's actually the third. And this is where Judge Scott McAfee comes into play, because he is one of the judges that received a promotion based on not, I don't want to say covering up, but based on.
No, it was because he was really good. He's the best guy for the job, man. How can you suggest that covering up the biggest crime of the century will lead to you getting a judgeship for anything other than merit?
Yeah. Well, so check out this testimony. This was a story I think I broke this whole story, or published this whole story back around 2023. But check out these two clips.
Thank you, sir. Most people in here are very familiar with the Ligon report that came out in December, just following the election of 2020, especially my friend Sam back there. What he said in that was, there is ample evidence that this cannot be certified. Now, why is that important? Because Judge Ligon, Senator Ligon, was a judge for 16 years in Brunswick, Georgia. If anybody knows what evidence looks like, it's Judge Ligon. So shortly after that, on December 22nd, Secretary Raffensperger had a press release that said, I'm bringing together all of government to go after 250 credible cases of fraud in the state of Georgia. 250 credible cases. 2 weeks later, he went to the United States Congress. He wrote a letter to Vice President Pence, all the members of Congress, and said, nothing is wrong in Georgia. There's no fraud. In 3 weeks, we solved all these 250, at that time, known issues of fraud. So you tell me where the fraud is. Many of us, including some attorneys, looked at the letter, a 10-page letter to the U.S. Congress. It had 42 false statements in it. Our Secretary of State told 42 false statements to the United States Congress and the Vice President. So within that document was the Pro V&V audit. He told us, the citizens, he told the SEB, he's told many courts that this Pro V&V audit took place. I worked with Governor Kemp. I worked with Evan Myers, one of his attorneys. I worked with the Inspector General, Scott McAfee. And they tried to convince me that the Secretary of State and Pro V&V told them that this audit took place. Well, I asked them, how many counties told you the audit took place? 0. We did open records requests to the counties, and it came back where 0 audits were done by Pro V&V. So now we're making decisions, our legislators are making decisions on an audit that never took place.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
So he goes on in another clip, and we'll, for interest of time, and we'll probably play it on Why We Vote on Friday. In another clip, he goes on to say that, Scott McAfee said there's 28 claims of fraud that you've made in this report. I can only investigate one. I'm going to investigate the Pro V&V audit one. And McAfee, he was the Inspector General in Georgia at the time. And that the guy's name is Bob. I'm not going to dox him, although I think I put his full name in the article.
So you already doxed him.
Yeah. Well, he's already, he's part of the 26 count report. So, his name is public. And he's a badass. That guy's awesome. So McAfee says, I'm going to investigate this one, and it's the audit. And Bob gives him all those freedom of information requests showing that the county's never had an audit done. They said they did an audit. And if you read the audit, it's the most milquetoast, bland, cookie cutter bullshit you've ever read in your life. The audit's like 3 pages long, the report. It doesn't even name the serial numbers of the machines. And like, I've done a show where I compare the Maricopa Pro V&V audit that they did before the Maricopa audit, the Senate authorized audit, the cover up, I think, my opinion.
Yep.
That one's in depth. It's got serial numbers for all the machines and everything. Same format, Pro V&V, same company. The Georgia one is just cookie cutter bullshit. The memo the memo that they gave to, let me pull this up because this is interesting. The memo that they showed as the call for the audit in the, following the election was dated July 16th, 2021. The problem
when did they claim it was done?
December of 2020.
Oh.
No, actually, I think it was November. I think it was like November 17th of 2020. And the memo was dated July 16th, 2021. And you go and check the metadata on it, and it was created that day. So this was in response, because this was a few days after the open records request. So they created that memo in response to the open records request. It's an overt act to defraud the American people and lie to the American people.
So GBI allegedly investigated all of the allegations of election fraud. That was a lie. Pro V&V, well, we did an audit, man. We totally audited and everything's fine. How dare you? Well, that also was a lie. These are all overt acts in a conspiracy, a treasonous conspiracy.
Yep, absolutely. And so Judge Scott McAfee ends up getting appointed to a judgeship by Brian Kemp. And
so that's two. So Vic Reynolds and Judge McAfee.
Yep.
Right?
And then Covert goes on to say, well, I just doxed him again, but Bob Covert, that's his name. He's on the reports. We've talked about him on the show before. He goes on to also say that he took, after McAfee ghosted him, because when McAfee got all that stuff, he ghosted him, stopped talking to him. After that, he took it to a district attorney on the Appalachian Circuit, and that woman goes on to get a judgeship as well. She also ghosted Bob when he presented that evidence, and she goes on to get a judgeship as well. So you have a history of people thwarting, I'm going to use that term, thwarting election investigations that go on to get judgeships appointed by Brian Kemp. And now you have a former U.S. senator saying that Brian Kemp stopped a credible, compelling investigation into 2020 election fraud. I mean, this case is going to be a massive RICO case, I think.
I think it's important for people to realize what you just said and what the kind of, I think the secondary bombshell of your article is the first.
Can you talk for a second? I'll be right back.
Yeah. The first bombshell of Brian's article is this Purdue testimony that Brian Kemp told GBI, we're not investigating, be a team player, allegedly, paraphrasing what the testimony says. But this is from grand jury testimony. And they all complied and they covered it up. That's the first bombshell in this article. The second is that the people that complied, 3 specific people, were appointed to Superior Court judgeships across the state of Georgia, seemingly, ostensibly, in response to helping the state of Georgia cover up the election fraud of 2020. Now, we've talked about on Why We Vote and special event coverage in the past few weeks, the revelations in Georgia from an evidence standpoint, 315,000 ballots without the chain of custody documentation. They have 10 phantom tabulators down there that counted a bunch of votes, but nobody can find them. They have I've forgotten more about the evidence in the county. There's the Joe Rossi testimony of hi, welcome back. You okay? Everything fine?
Yeah, I'm fine.
So the Joe Rossi testimony about the ballots down there that we covered in special coverage. So the margin in the state of Georgia is less than 12,000 votes. There are way more than 12,000 votes that are in question that, double scanned there's more there's allegedly more double scanned ballots than the margin of victory in the state of Georgia. And what we see, and Brian's 2 bombshells in this article, are that the effort to cover that up, convince the public that everything's fine. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation investigated everybody. It's fine. All these election deniers are just sore losers. We did a pro V&V audit. The system has controls. There are checks and balances. There's chain of custody. There's all of these things. And what we are systematically finding is that was a lie. And it was a lie so that they could sell the narrative about the 2020 election. And in Georgia, it is particularly pronounced because their lies led to a runoff, and that runoff gave the Democrats the control of the Senate, to allow the control of the country effectively, to allow them to engage in what they engaged in for the 4 years of the Biden administration.
That's the key to it all. That's literally how I ended that story, was with that this cover up is what gave Joe Biden the quote unquote trifecta in our federal government and caused the hell that we have lived.
And they all came together to cover it up and claim debunked, right? There's so many more things in Fulton County. The pallets of ballots that appear to be suitcases being pulled out. There's the test ballot factory that Bridget Thorne testified to. There is so much, and there were so many witnesses, and there were people that were willing to testify. And what did they do? They covered it up.
Yep. All right. So we'll of course be talking more about this, through the week. I'm going to have some more stuff coming out on this. And we'll definitely be talking about it on Why We Vote on Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Let's go ahead and hit another sponsor, and then we'll go ahead and move on. Guys, they can cancel your accounts. They can freeze your cards. They can decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. Within Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line that they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today and download the Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. All right. Let's
getting tipped in sats. It's awesome.
I love it, man. I love it. Let's go ahead and Ash, check the private chat real quick, by the way. Let's go. When you're reading a story like that and you get a phone call and you look down and you're kind of like, oh shit, I better answer this.
Oh, is there more to it than what you wrote here?
No,
I know you can't say,
no.
but
It's just a tip, like to keep my eye out for something in the news, guys. That's all. It's not like a big secret or anything, but I will be keeping my eye out and looking forward to it. So let's
stay tuned to watch Why We Vote on Friday.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's definitely election related. So there you go. I can say I also have the next story that's going to be earth shattering. That's on the back burner, waiting to get published. It'll be coming soon. So Oversight Committee put this out. Breaking: the Clintons cave and agree to appear for depositions on February 26th and 27th. James Comer says, quote, once it became clear that we would hold them in contempt, the Clintons completely caved and will appear for transcribed, filmed depositions this month. No one is above the law. I think they absolutely are above the law, because when they didn't show up for the first one, you didn't go and arrest them. And you negotiated with them, and you don't negotiate with these people. Once you or I would not be afforded that luxury, Ash. If we failed to comply with a subpoena, or if we failed to produce something, and not just once, but over and over and over, we would be rolled up immediately. But because it's Bill Clinton and because it's Hillary Clinton, oh, well, okay, we'll do it at your convenience. Maybe, do you want us to do it at your house? I don't think they're doing that, but it's absurd, man.
Yeah, I mean, allegedly, the Clintons want to do this publicly, and it's the committee that is saying they're going to do it behind closed doors. So I think that can go either way, right? If maybe they're doing it behind closed doors because they're going to ask them about ongoing investigation stuff, and that can't be public yet. I don't know, but it's gonna be interesting. Definitely looking forward to the readout from it. Hopefully we'll get, Anna Paulina Luna come out and tell us what we missed.
But is it going to be interesting?
Some of it might even be true.
I was about to say, is it going to be interesting? I mean, are we going to get just, the same old kind of garbage, just a bunch of nothing? I mean, yesterday we were reporting that Comer's like they want the scope to be, very limited, and I don't know, just a bunch of crap like that. So I don't know. I couldn't care less, to be honest with you. Like it'll be great to see, and it'll be a good stream to watch, but you're not going to get anything out of it. Congress, all they're supposed to be doing
behind closed doors, though, isn't it? So there's not going to be a stream.
That's true. That's true. It is deposition.
So we're just going to get the report outs from it, and we're going to hear, pearl clutching and gasping from illegitimate legislators telling us how, outraged we should be about the things we're not allowed to see. But there's plenty of stuff to ask the Clintons about. Jeffrey Epstein implicated Bill Clinton in the 2008 financial collapse. Hillary Clinton has a allegedly portfolio of crime, both from her time in office and both of them from their foundation. So I look forward to it. I am still very much of the mind that the Clintons need to be punished, and Bill Clinton has presidential immunity for his official acts. A lot of the things that he's, at least that we think he's being questioned about in this particular hearing, happened after he was out of office.
And they're not official acts.
Yes, so they are. And as we found in President Trump's immunity case, there is no immunity for unofficial acts.
Yes, there is no such thing.
Yeah.
And underage girls is not an executive act.
And we speculated at the time, Brian, that at the time of the immunity hearing, that was all being done to set up. I think we were talking about Obama, right? Set up to be the precedent-setting case for future prosecutions against the people that,
the Trump one?
Against the corruption. Yeah, the Trump immunity case.
Absolutely.
And I did not on my bingo card have it going back to Clinton, but accelerate. Let's go.
You got to go through the progression. Yeah. Let's get Bush in there too. That'd be excellent. All right. You ready for this story? This is just like, this story's crazy, man. From RT, corpse water, burned herbs, harrowing rituals, how Ukraine turned to magic in its war against Russia. This sounds crazy. It sounds like confirmation of everything that we've thought about the people that wear the black sun on their uniforms. It absolutely is confirmation to everything we've been saying, not just about Ukrainians and the oligarchs and elites in Ukraine and throughout the world, but especially with ours. And it also sheds some light perhaps onto why, there's some infatuation with the sick elites in this country, with Ukraine and across the globe. Yulia Mendel, former press secretary for Vladimir Zelensky, has made claims that would have sounded like tabloid fantasy, yet in today's Ukraine, they land differently. Mendel says that Andrei Yermak, the powerful head of the presidential office, allegedly sought help from magicians. People, she claims, gathered water from corpses, burned herbs, and performed rituals. After a briefing, a journalist did not chase the then new president for comment, but repeatedly asked Yermak what he had been doing at a cemetery. He ignored the question. A year later, a minister confided that Mendel that Yermak was quote unquote into magic. By 2023, someone from the important service, a quote unquote important service, told her that he supposedly kept a chest of the dead, which are dolls made by magicians from Latin America, Israel, and Georgia. That chest, she says, was already, quote unquote, filled with the dead. Interpret that as you wish. Mendel added that Yermak is not unique. Magical thinking, she suggested, is widespread among Ukrainian elites. That may sound exaggerated, but anyone who has traveled through Western Ukraine knows mysticism is deeply rooted there. The Lviv region and the Carpathians, out of the sociological he visited those two villages, the Lviv region and the Carpathians, and village after village, people spoke of a neighbor who was a quote unquote witch, able to make children fall ill or cows stop giving milk with a single glance. They feared her, yet they sought her out at night to cast spells against enemies. Now here's where it gets really crazy. and insightful, perhaps. During a packed church holiday service, the witch entered. I saw people faint. She had come for holy water and candles to place in graves. The pattern was clear. Society appoints a witch, fears her, and uses her. Church by day, spells by night, both yours and ours. It permeates Ukrainian culture. Soviet-era Ukrainian art reflected it. Even modern social advertising features leave actresses dressed as witches, theatrically beheading men. Such imagery takes root only in a society comfortable with pagan mysticism. Now, before I get into the conclusions that they draw, any comment besides these people are sick as bleep?
Yeah, I mean, so you crazy conspiracy theorists talking about Satanists being in the governments and all these. No, it's real. And I personally don't fear these people. You know, some folks talking about how scary the demonic is in the chat. Well, you know, when you have the spirit of the Lord, you should fear no evil. It can't come at you. And when you are when you call on the name of Jesus, it has to flee. And that's important for people to realize, is that this is a spiritual battle that we're in. And there is a spiritual set of weapons that you should have and you should take with you everywhere that you go. But I laughed when this started, and I think some folks in the chat took that as me being flippant or maybe dismissive of this. I 100% believe that evil is real. Go listen to Matt Arrett talk about his areas of research into the occult. In my state here, there are 3 blue entities, and the like literally 3 blue entities that form a triangle over the Denver metro area that was brought in by the government through the arts program and widely speculated to be. One of them is a goat called Baal. And widely speculated. The other's a horse with demon eyes. There's a bear as well. But the evil inside of our government, state, federal, international, and Ukraine is real. And we have to be honest about that. And we have to have the right tools and weapons to be able to fight it. And you have that same airport has like these strange random gargoyles throughout the airport. And we had the murals back in the day that foretold the pandemic. COVID-19 masks, the N95 masks. All the children of the world dead under the ground. I don't know if it's true or not, but my niece told me that those gargoyles appear in random places. Like they're not in the same place every time. I don't know if that's true or not, but they move them around. They're just art installments. And the Denver airport has fun with this, right? So when they were doing the airport redesign, they had all these promo posters of like, what are we doing? Creating the world's best airport experience, or, you know, building the Freemason underground lair, you know, like they put out a whole bunch of these different promos that was like poking fun at all the occultists. I think that's brandishing the method, right? It's them showing what they're doing, and the loose just don't get it. And everybody just thinks we're joking and kidding. These people are evil. They're sick. They must be defeated, but you can't defeat them in the temporal without defeating them in the spiritual. And that's the primary battle, is spiritual. Well, that's a good segue. That's a good segue into the 3 conclusions that this author drew in this article. First, these 3 conclusions. First, this worldview reframes the conflict from the perspective Ukrainians' human losses are not simply tragic necessity, but offerings. They are sacrifices to dark forces in exchange for power. The language of clergy about a struggle between light and darkness takes on a literal meaning. Second, it explains the Kiev's elites' almost mystical faith in victory. The military situation worsens. People flee mobilization centers. Cities endure blackouts. Yet Zelensky insists the outcome will match his wishes. On what is that certainty based? Not on the front line, but on promises from sorcerers. So much blood has been spilled that in this logic, the contract must be fulfilled. Third, this sheds light on the persecution of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Witchcraft demands a turning away from God. True, many in Western Ukraine manage both church and spells, but the state campaign against canonical orthodoxy goes further. It reflects a ruling class that has chosen mysticism over faith. Where is it? not just in Ukraine or international governments, but in our own as well. Do you have the clip? I have it if you don't, of Dan Scavino's wife talking about no? So and congratulations to Dan Scavino and Aaron for their wedding.
Yeah.
I
was invited, but I couldn't make it. It was at Mar-a-Lago. I couldn't make it.
For real?
No.
That'd be super cool.
I don't get invited to those things. I just drop earth-shattering election news.
So his wife works in art, I think, for the State Department, or for something like the State Department, the visual arts of the United States of America around the world is where she works. And this is just 1 minute and 17 seconds. So
kick.
Say the president offered me on the spot in December a very big job, let's just say. And I turned it down also on the spot because I have a young son, and this with art, I can go to galleries in almost any city across the country. I can do my work from anywhere in the world, and I want to be able to spend as much time with my son as possible. And by the way, the Art and Embassies program was started in 1964. This isn't a new thing by President Kennedy. So it's always been a political position. It's always been someone that the president appointed. And just like he's done with the performing arts at the Kennedy Center, he wanted to make sure that I was here to make sure that our visual arts were not woke. We're not dominated by people that had a leftist ideology. And it's funny, I am a little bit of a undercover person in the State Department that can get people out through art. Shockingly, I had I'll shout her out. Anna Paulina Luna was in Romania, and she called me, said, "Hey girl," she said, "I'm in Romania." I said, "That's nice. What's going on?" I was just at the ambassador of Romania's residence, and there is satanic baby art in the residence. So within 15 minutes, I'm on the phone with Marco's team, not only having the art removed from Art and Embassies, the art removed from the State Department, out of everything. And that ambassador, she's no longer with us. So it's like a good way to learn things. There was an ambassador to a Latin American country that wanted very fine people Charlottesville art. He's no longer with us either. I mean, he's with us in the
I
world.
gotta be
He's
really,
no longer with us
really
stage and art.
careful.
Dan's like, this is great.
And it's all true. And again, it's all in support of the president's agenda and all our beliefs and values and everything. And, sometimes when, other parts of the world, some folks that are out there that are just not aligned with the president.
Satanic art. Also, had to be done.
Wow. Well, speaking of satanic art, Fox News Grammy Awards viewership plummets 20% among adults in final year on CBS. The politically charged event averaged 14 million total viewers, an 11% drop compared to last year, and a 20% decline compared to 2024. Advertisers' coveted demographic of adults aged 25 to 54 averaged 5 million viewers compared to 5.7 last year, for a 13% decline. And there was a 19% drop amongst adults aged 18 to 49, and 10% of viewers at least 55 years or older. Now, the youngest demographic, 18 to 34, saw a 20% decline. That's a huge, huge number. And of course, we got to throw this in there. No one is illegal on stolen land. I'm sorry to break your heart, Ash. Billie Eilish.
I love this story so much. Why are you not breaking my heart? Why would it break my heart?
Billie Eilish, don't you? Her music.
I like some of her music. It's also in a range that I can sing. So for karaoke, I will pick Billie Eilish song.
Oh, I assumed you liked her because you sang Billie Eilish in Vegas.
Yeah, because I sing it for karaoke. No, I do like some of her music. I can't listen to it anymore. I can't listen to any of these satanic people's music anymore. But I love the angle of the Tongva tribe on this. Are you going to get into that?
Yeah, briefly. Okay. I mean, so yeah, Billie
Eilish.
The
Marco Rubio application, because if not, I will pull it up.
No, pull it up. No one is illegal on stolen land. I'm really hopeful in this room, and I feel like we need to keep fighting and speaking up and protesting. Our voices really do matter, and the people matter. And fuck ICE. That's all I'm going to say. Sorry, she added the sorry. So while Ash is pulling that up there is this, big story now about this, like, how do you say it? The Tongva tribe?
I think, yeah.
Yeah. So Ollie London put this out. LA law firm offers to evict Billie Eilish from her mansion on behalf of the Tongva tribe. Quote, Eilish's admission that she lives on stolen land gives the tribe a rightful action for possession as the true owner of the property. The 30-day notice is already written and ready to be served.
I love it. I love it so much. And Marco Rubio is realizing that he needs to represent the Tongva tribe to reclaim their land from Billie Eilish. This whole thing I love. I love the Marco memes.
Now, I don't know if you saw this clip, but so Eilish saying that nobody can live on stolen land, blah, blah, blah. And, people have been saying, you live in a $14 million home on stolen land. Why don't you invite people into your home? Open your borders, open your doors, let people in, right? Because none of them do. They're all, just the most disgustingly heinous, hypocritical people ever. Go ahead.
But the beauty of this is that no one is illegal on stolen land, so they should just go squat. Just go onto her property, set up your teepees or whatever. I don't know what kind of housing the Tongva tribe occupied, but set it up on Billie Eilish's property and hold her to her own virtue and values, right?
Hell yeah. So this woman here, this was on NBC News. This woman here actually did that and opened up her home to these illegals, and holy shit.
And it's really fun having them. What I realized is there's so much prejudice against refugees, mostly because people don't know them.
Lisa says she feels like she has her own personal chef, as Wildande loves cooking. Te gusta?
And Wildande also loves doing my laundry and cleaning my house.
And if she gets out of line, I just
remind her.
Oh my God. Do they realize what they're doing?
That's awesome.
That's called slavery, ma'am.
Wasn't there some white lady that took in some refugees and they murdered her too? You remember hearing that story?
I don't know. That's just hilarious though, man. They don't even realize how dumb they are. They don't. Oh man. So let's get into this clip. And I like Adam Carolla.
May 60 says everybody should own an immigrant. Basically what that is showing.
I mean, that's all it is. It's literally modern day
personal chef.
Legalized slavery. And if good for that lady for taking advantage of it at the individual level rather than the corporate level, which is what our establishment politicians are manufacturing. Corporate slavery, where people come in and work for pennies on the dollar under the table most of the time and live in their little their little ghettos that they make for these people of the same culture. And this is what happened in Springfield, Ohio with the Dole plant there. They all lived and they walk through and document the neighborhood that these Haitians and folks live in. And it's literally modern day slavery. And at least that woman is saying it outright. I let them in my house and they cook and clean for me. And when they get out of line, I just, I put them up against give them the cat of nine tails. Old cat of nine tails comes out. Fucking sick, man.
Yeah, apparently that was in England. I was looking at ChatGPT and asking, yes, there was a real case in England involving a woman being killed by a migrant that she had taken in. The migrant was Sudanese. Angie, thank you for giving me the tip on England, because that's how I found it.
There you go. All right, so here's Adam Carolla laying out the mindset of these retards in Hollywood.
If those people started saying we support Trump, guess who's out?
Yep.
You are fucking out. And if you support ICE, you're out. And if you're not down with Black Lives Matter, out. And you're not wanting to free Palestine, you're out. So it's all out. So they understand. So then they get up there and they go, this is a group that I don't want to be shunned from or tossed out. So they all know it. And they all know what the subjects are.
Mm-hmm.
Here's COVID. Yeah. Shutting down schools. For it. Good. Wearing a useless mask. For it. Good.
Getting a job.
Getting experimental vaccine. Multiple times. Experimental. Just say yes. Good. Okay. 6 foot distancing. No signs behind it. You're for it. Good. Shutting down churches. Good. How about Black Lives Matter rallies? No, we're for those. Those are fine. We can keep going with those. Okay. Whatever the subject, you guys, here's what it is. and this will prevent you from getting kicked out of the club. Now, we're going to have an award show, and you get up there, and whoever praises whatever your policies are the loudest, and by the way, we hate Trump. So you got to say something shitty about him and then something great about Black Lives Matter or whatever that thing is. Whoever does that the best is going to stay in the club the longest. So now you have a decision to make. You can do one.
All right. So what he's saying there is he's not even embellishing a little bit. I think it's actually worse than what he's saying. And this is something I talk with Chris about all the time, but used to, not so much anymore, but they get marching orders. There's literal emails that go out to these people. This is the next topic that we need to focus on. You need to make posts about this, this, and this.
And that's from like their agents, right? Or their
agencies, yes.
Right, because those agencies are partnered with causes and companies to push. It's the same as lobby. It's less harmful to society, maybe, than the exact same thing happening in lobbying politicians, but maybe not, because arguably celebrities have greater influence than politicians in shaping the American mind. So they're just props. They're products. These people are products, and it's obvious.
Yep. And look how quickly they went after Nicki Minaj after the Grammys. I love her villain arc. It's amazing. I know. Supposedly, I didn't know this, but supposedly, like, she's like kind of on the born again track, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, she found Jesus and everything else. And if that's the case, I haven't looked into it, but I'm all for it.
She is professing Jesus as her savior now. And this is something that I questioned about her, because back in the day, she had a demon named Roman living inside of her that she used to talk about, right? As part of her persona was that. And when she first, like, this is months ago, when she first started, came out as kind of supporting President Trump and talking about Christians, and I think it was the persecution of Christians in Africa was the issue that she was talking about. And it seemed a little wishy-washy, right? Like, Christians shouldn't be persecuted, but she wasn't professing that she was. Now she is. Now she's professing the name of Jesus. And I think that's amazing. It's been a very kind of public turnabout, and gosh, they seem afraid of her, and it sounds like they should be, because she seems to know a lot of their secrets and is unafraid to share them. And this is going back to, when you think about the level of depravity that Nicki Minaj probably witnessed in her time in that industry. And, we talk about with like the Q deployments and the SRA stuff that has come out. When you see the level of evil, you end up at Jesus. You don't just end up at, I need God, or I need some sort of religion, or I need something that's good, right? You end up at Jesus. And that's one of the greatest proof points for the truth of the gospel out there, is that when people are faced with evil, they instinctively come back to Jesus. And, in the Bible tells us that man is without excuse. It's when you open your eyes to the spiritual, it's quite obvious what the truth is.
She is sounding strikingly similar to a certain Mary from the Bible. I mean, seriously, like, you look at that story. I didn't know about the demon. I did not know about that.
Oh, you didn't know about that? Yeah.
But I mean, her whole life leading up to Hollywood and everything was controversial, to say the least. But
yeah, I never cared for her or listened to her music but specifically because I think it was actually at a Grammys performance or in the pre-Grammy interview type stuff years ago, where she talked about Roman, and I never cared for her, paid attention to her, did anything about her, because I thought she was professing the demonic, right? She was at the time. And so it's been really beautiful to watch, and she's sassy.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. So check out this clip here. Speaking of ICE and F-ICE and all that, this is what they're pushing back on.
These immigrants out of the prisons. It is safer for everyone, not on the street operations. So it seems like Spanberger, she didn't get the memo?
I guess she didn't get the memo because we had a great partnership with Glenn Youngkin and his team on the ground there to make sure that when these criminal illegal aliens who are in the jails, in their custody, once they serve their time, that we are notified and they can be turned over to ICE to be released back into their own country. But Kaylee, I want to give you one example, and your viewers one example of a direct response to this. There is an illegal alien that we arrested from El Salvador in September of last year. He was arrested for strangling with an electric cord his 8-month-old sister.
Oh my goodness.
She was killed because of the policies, because of these new sanctuary city policies out of Virginia. Once this individual serves his time, he will go back onto Virginia's streets because we're not allowed to be notified. That is absolutely heinous, and Virginians are going to be a lot less safe because of this policy.
Trisha, that is insane what you just told me. And I saw on your Twitter feed that in New York, this is just likewise insane. 6,947 illegal aliens with criminal records were just let out on the streets of New York right behind me.
That's exactly right. And we saw the same out of Minneapolis, which, of course, we're trying to solve for. I'm so glad that Tom Homan is on the ground there trying to make really what is common sense deals, because all we're asking for is for state and local cooperation. I mean, just a couple more of these individuals that we've picked up off of the street in the last few days, Kaylee, out of Minneapolis. An individual from Laos convicted for rape and sexual assault. An individual from Vietnam convicted for sexual assault, homicide, negligent manslaughter. Another from Laos convicted for homicide. These are the people who've been walking around Minneapolis with impunity for the last few years, and who ICE, because we're not allowed into those jails, we have to flood the zone and get these individuals out of the country. That's what we're doing in Minneapolis. All
right, we can kind of cut it right there, but I mean, that's unacceptable that you're protecting these individuals that are doing this kind of stuff. Do you want to comment on that? I got one more case.
I'm just baffled that you sound surprised.
Well, if it wasn't convicted, like I've heard, oh, he's been charged with this, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, due process. Although I don't think you have due process in this country. If you're an illegal, I don't think like that's the due process. Do you have papers? Yes or no? And if you say no, do you have temporary visas, whatever? No. Okay, get the fuck out. Bye.
Yeah, that is your due process. You're 100% correct about that. It's not, well, I really, really want to be here and I need to present a full, complete defense of every defense I can imagine for why you should let me stay. That's not how this works. Due process for being unlawfully present is, are you unlawfully present? Peace out. You're gone. But Brian, we are talking about a city that is run by Jeffrey Epstein's alleged bastard son. So, you're going to get what you're going to get, and it's going to continue until the people of New York stop tolerating it.
Yep. Listen to this story from Bill Malusian. ICE confirms that they've arrested a New Orleans Police Department recruit who says they are an illegal, who they say is an illegal alien from Cameroon with an active deportation order and no work authorization. And they say he was illegally given a gun by the New Orleans Police Department. He was 1 week away from graduating. He entered the U.S. legally in 2015 on a visitor's visa. After marrying a U.S. citizen in 2016, he was working on his conditional residency and permanent, but his permanent residency was denied due to fraud, probably a fraudulent wedding, I would imagine, marriage, right? He was ordered to appear in immigration court 3 times, but never did. And somehow New Orleans made him a police recruit. Like he was going to be a cop in New Orleans.
They gave him a gun.
I remember before I joined the Marines, I tried to be a cop. And do you know why I was not permitted to be a police officer in Miami-Dade County? Because I like fire. I kid you not. That was the reason for me not being a police officer in Miami-Dade, because I like fire. And I specifically said I like bonfires and campfires and that kind of thing, because it was a question they ask you on the psych exam. But this guy he's got court-ordered deportations. Like, did they not do a background check on this guy? They just gave him a gun? What?
Yeah.
All right. So there you have it. Way to go, New Orleans. Jerry Nadler had an interesting little clip here from the hearing. I think this was yesterday. check this out as he's encouraging people to shoot ICE agents.
The tax cuts on millionaires and billionaires enacted over the last 10 years. But what is really the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. The attacks on American citizens by masked hoodlums. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person to protect yourself. But we see people being shot for what? For driving a car?
Into a cop.
Into a police officer that's wearing a mask, yes, but also police on his body armor with a gun and a radio and other police officers and usually a car with little blue lights going, woo, 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 woo. Jerry that's the dog whistle though. That's the because now somebody goes out and does that and they can turn around and play that clip right there and be like, Jerry Nadler told you what's going to happen. You know, I thought I was being kidnapped, just like Jerry Nadler said. And so I shot the guy. These guys are promoting this violence.
Yeah, they are. And it's crazy because if you watch Badlands Book Club, then you know that Jerry Nadler's family is being positioned by everyone's favorite recently disclosed CIA spook and his collaborators that Jerry Nadler's son is going to save the country.
Yep. Jerry Nadler's son is the one that's prosecuting the Smartmatic case in Broward in Palm Beach County. Florida.
Witness, attorney for one of the witnesses, I think, right? Attorney
Michael Nadler. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I don't think he's prosecuting it. He's attorney for the Whistle Boys, as Colonel Towner
That's
calls
right.
them.
That's right. He's the you're right. I think he's also prosecuting that case.
No, I think he prosecuted before he left that role. And his current, as I remember it, and I could be wrong because I hate this book and tend to overstate what's in it. I think it's directionally correct. But I think he was, before he left government service, he was prosecuting Venezuelan stuff, but he is now the attorney for the Whistle Boys, as I understand it, or at least one of them.
Let me just check. He was an assistant U.S. attorney. It doesn't say in Florida. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he was representing, or maybe he was the one that he specializes in money laundering and Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. I'm pretty sure he was the one prosecuting the Smartmatic case to start.
Before he left government service. I don't think he is in that capacity anymore, but I'll find it.
Yeah, you might be right. No, he did not. Okay, so you're right. Okay. However, the current Smartmatic prosecution was initiated in 2024 after Nadler left. Okay. So anyways, let's keep moving here. Ilhan Omar cannot hate enough with her John Lennon sunglasses.
What is to her left? Hang on, I gotta blow this up.
It's like it's a woman with big earmuffs, huge earmuffs.
Oh, okay. It looks like she has like a gerbil on her face or something.
Probably does. If you watch Rick and Morty, there are
that is a rough shot. I was like, what is this? Is that a furry? What is this?
Oh, listen to this anti-American foreigner that's representing the people of Minneapolis.
Good morning, everyone. It is an honor to be here with you all. I represent Minneapolis, which is currently under occupation. We do not exaggerate when we say we have schools where 2/3 of the students are afraid to go to school.
Is that because they're illegal?
We do not exaggerate when we say we have people who are afraid to go to the hospital because our hospitals have occupying paramilitary forces. We do not exaggerate when we say our restaurants are shutting down because there are not enough people to drive the employees to work and from work.
Yes. Yes.
What?
Yes. There are not enough people to drive the employees to and from work. The government is here to help. We will take care of all
we'll drive you.
Needs.
Yeah. That's all the government should just offer to drive the restaurant workers to work. And, you know, if they're here unlawfully, they just don't end up at work. They end up deported back to Somalia, which is where Ilhan Omar should be, is deported back to Somalia because she has engaged in immigration fraud. She's harboring enemies of our nation right now.
Yes.
Aid and comfort, baby. It's explicit. Aid and comfort. Aid and comfort to enemies of America. And we're talking about people that have defrauded us to the tune of billions of dollars. That's enemies of America.
Well, you remember what Nick Shirley, right? Nick Shirley?
Yeah.
That exposed the fraud. The second
The Leering Center guy.
Yeah, the Leering Center. The Quality Leering Center, QLC. So the second kind of expose that he did was about the transportation. And, you know, he kind of said that this is the foundation of it all because every single facet of the fraud that's taking place here, from the kids getting driven to daycare, the parents driven to medical appointments, like all of that is rooted in the transportation. And I mean, translators are relying on these transportation systems. So they set up a hub where they tell the people, hey, don't get a car, don't do any of this stuff. We will take care of all of that. That's kind of the stipulation to you getting this fraud, is we need the transportation as well. And he said, I mean, this is like $1 million. I want to say he said like $8 million a day that was being spent on this, or $2 million a day, something crazy like that. But I mean, Omar saying that right there is essentially an admission to that. Like, people can't get to work because we don't have anybody to drive them. What?
Because all our drivers are unlawfully present, afraid of being arrested and deported. Oh, you don't say. Donnie Double called that lady ferret face, and I love it.
So here's another interesting post here. JB Pritzker, the 400-pound slob, as President Trump, well, the slob, as President Trump has called him, Illinois is joining the World Health Organization's Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network. I refuse to sit by as Donald Trump undermines science and weakens our nation's ability to detect and respond to global health threats. Now, I'm just going to go over here and just check this out right here. What does Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution say right here? No state shall enter into a treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, blah, blah, blah. I don't think Governor Pritzker can do that. I just don't know. Can a state join the World Health Organization without the blessing of the federal government? Don't think so. That's the whole point of these United States is,
Wouldn't that be like a Logan Act violation?
No, I mean, unless he's negotiating.
Well, what are the terms of him joining?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Are there terms to him joining? That's true.
There must be.
Yeah, that's yeah. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, we could go over this briefly, and this will pretty much do it for the day. So BBC offices raided in France as the UK opens fresh investigation into Grok.
Oh, what did Grok do?
Oh, Grok is making nudie magazine day popular again. Apparently, allegedly. The French offices of Elon Musk's X have been raided by the Paris prosecutor's cybercrime unit as part of an investigation into suspected offenses, including unlawful data extraction and complicity in the possession of child pornography. I will remind you, and I did not know this, I actually had to look this up. This is disgusting. Did you know the age of consent in France is like, I think it's 15?
Yeah.
That's insane.
And they changed that. Didn't they change that? Wasn't it? I thought it was 14 and then they changed it to 15, and they've lied about Macron's age when he was dating his teacher, Brigitte, because it would like that's how, as I understand it, this is secondhand information from people that watch Candace Owens. So grain of salt. But that when they first got together, when she was his teacher, he was 14, but they lied to everybody and told everybody that he was 15 when they got together because that was legal.
That's absolutely crazy to me. That
gross. Yeah.
Very, very gross. Yeah, so getting back into the article, Musk and former ex-chief Linda Yaccarino had been summoned to appear at the hearings in April. The UK, England's coming at him too. The Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO, announced a probe into Musk's AI tool Grok over its, quote, potential to produce harmful sexualized image and video content. Musk said that the raid was a, quote unquote, political attack. The investigation began in January 2025 when French prosecutors started looking into content recommended by X's algorithm before being widened in July that year to include Musk's controversial AI chatbot Grok. Yaccarino also took to X to accuse French prosecutors of carrying out a political attack, saying, to be clear, they are lying. The UK authorities have given an update to their investigations into sexual deepfakes created by Grok and shared on X. The images, often made using real images of women without their consent, prompted a barrage of criticism in January from victims, online safety campaigners, and politicians. Now, I will say that when I do the Y Chrome show, we get into some, it's PG-13 stuff, right? But because of that, my algorithm thinks that I'm like some crazy perv. And so I get these random ads, and they have AI like programs that you can, and this is in America on Meta, that will remove the clothes of a picture that you upload. Now, granted, it's fake, but how is this shit allowed?
We crazy. I've never seen those ads, by the way.
Well,
that's horrifying.
Alpha and Y Chromes. I blame Alpha. I'm blaming Alpha 100%. He'll say, "What? I've been here all day." But no, so
Alpha's like, my algorithm always looked like this. What's your problem?
It's just weird to me, man. But so when I read this, they've removed it from Grok now. Let's just say it's removed. So I tried it, and it shows like a blurry picture, and then it goes away, and it says that this is deleted content or something along those lines. But I don't understand why they're going after him for the algorithm stuff in France. Like it's not they're not. I guess I know they're crazy over there, and they want Elon Musk really bad for some reason. But started looking at content recommended by X's algorithm. I don't.
Well, but they're going after Grok, right? I can definitely see how Grok is a threat to narrative control, because there's now in every tweet a little Grok icon where you can click on it and expand more context, more information, and then you can ask it questions and clarify details and whatnot. So it makes it makes the truth, the truth more accessible, more easier for regular normal people to navigate. And that's a threat to government narrative control. I could definitely see oppressive regimes wanting to get rid of AI tools generally, but certainly Grok, because X has been kind of repositioned. And I think, I don't know how it is in France, but here it's the public square now, right? Having a AI helper within the public square to debunk narratives and pull out the facts is a threat. As much as we, are questioning, we don't trust AI tools. They are tools, right? But having that kind of power packed into the public square is a threat to the regime. They don't even have time to stand up their narratives before they're being debunked now. That's new.
Right.
That's a newer occurrence.
Well, that is concerning. So I did look real quick, and it appears that the France thing is about child sexual pornography stuff that's on that platform. That's been on this platform. Like we the Wall Street Journal, when they went through and did the whole Pizzagate expose about how they were able, to get into the Instagram. Yeah, right. Expose. You're like 10 years late, but congratulations. You caught up on Pizzagate being actually a real thing. But also, we have Section 230 protections over here for the platforms themselves, which we can get into that debate back and forth, but I guess they don't have those same protections in the UK and France. So there you have it. All right, guys, smash that thumbs up. What's up?
Oh, I just said, yeah, I agree with you. Good show. Good discussion. Well, everybody go read Brian's full article on the Badlands Substack, badlands.substack.com. Super excited that Brian's contributing to Badlands Substack now. Well, very happy that he decided to be a part of the team now.
It was a
not
fight.
Too cool. It's not too cool for us anymore.
I told John in Onlylands chat, I said 10 grand, man. Totally kidding, guys. I did not get paid at all for it. Well, I mean, I get normal
Well, you should
fees,
get paid.
but
Yeah.
normal fees. But
Yeah,
like,
it's your
I was
intellectual
joking.
property, the fruit of your brain. So you should get paid, but not $10,000. That's
Well, I told him he's making $500,000 a day.
a day.
So
Certainly. Yeah. A minute.
Inside-
Tomorrow at 9 a.m. my time, Mountain Time, so 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Gordon and I are doing episode 4, I believe. It's episode 4 of The Choice, The Chosen, on our show called The Choice. So make sure you tune in for that. It's a lot of fun. Good show.
All right. And before we get into Rumble Rants, let's go ahead and get a quick word from speaking of Alpha, from Alpha.
The following ad is rated M for mature. Soft Disclosure wants you to get naked this Valentine's Day with limited edition his and her bundles that save you 20% off the individual retail prices. Proprietary oil infusions, grass-finished beef tallow, goat's milk from American goats, locally grown herbs and ingredients. Soft Disclosure is putting America First fruits on your skin.
And for these sexy bundles, we've added an all-new boar's haired beard brush and a solid jade gua sha. And the reason I'm here is because Alpha doesn't know how to say these words.
Gusha. His, hers. We need a moment to calm down. Don't hide your skin. Disclose it. Get naked this Valentine's Day with Soft Disclosure. Head over to softdisclosure.com and save 20% off individual retail prices with our his and hers customizable bundles, and use promo code NAKED to save 15% off the rest of the site. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
Valentine's. It's coming up.
Valentine's. Not time. Times.
Valentine's Day is coming up. So get yourself, these bundles are really cool. And the beard brushes are new. And the only way to get them right now is in the bundle. This way. They're very cool. And this is our 6th American business that we're supporting with Soft Disclosure. So you're now, when you buy Soft Disclosure, you are force multiplying your dollar to support 6 American businesses. Tell me where else you can do that. It's the way to go. And they are beautiful, beautiful bundles, beautiful gifts. Get them soon though, because Valentine's Day is 10 days away, and we need time to ship it to you. So order your Valentine's bundles today.
All right, let's jump into some Rumble Rants. Smash that thumbs up if you have not done so yet. Boba Foo says, worried about being doxxed, your family being a target. Don't be. If the deep state NWO wins, all of us will be subjugated and your children will be on the menu. Where we go one, we go all. Yeah, I actually, before I wrote that article, I mentioned, like, should I write this under a ghost name? And no, don't care. Cute Swords 3, Ash, the Bible says to pay taxes, render unto Caesar, but it doesn't say anything about Caesar doing ethical things with your money, or does it?
Yeah, so I actually challenge this, because what the Bible says is render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and render unto God what is God's. And this is Jesus's words that we're talking about. Now, what is God's? God's is our first fruits. He demands our first fruits. In the United States of America, you can't give God your first fruits because the government takes it. Caesar takes it. So, I push back a little bit on the absolutism of your position. And also, Brian, I just teed you up to play your favorite clip.
You did?
Absolutism.
Oh.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Thank
you. I mean, the Jedi is kind of like a cult kind of thing. So it's an occult group. The final demand. What happened to no tax on tips? Just did my taxes, $8,776 in tips last year. Got an extra $800 in my refund. It's just a deduction lowering my tax bracket. They kept 60% of my tips. WTF?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not an accountant. I have no idea. And my wife is no longer in an industry that's tipped, so I have no idea. Also, don't pay your taxes unless you can pay your taxes. You can. I am not a fan of paying taxes.
Well, certainly not when the government is run by illegitimate pedophiles.
Exactly. Also, I 1099, and so I have a lot of expenses that, I have to deal with. Boba Foo, you two are great. Ash keeps preempting my typing. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but keep preempting, Ash. And thank you, Boba Foo. Appreciate that. All right, guys. We always get the tax revolt. Eric Q. Freeman, don't pay taxes. I was just quoting Eric Q. Freeman, Mr. Fedman, that's watching me right now because I've got a giant target on my back after that article. Share it out, badlands.substack.com. I've got it up on my X as well at CannCon. You can follow Ashe at Ashe in America, and we will be doing Why We Vote on Friday. Don't even know what we're going to have. I do have another story that I'm waiting on some other details to come out, and it's going to be another big story. And yeah, it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun. Stick around, guys. And yeah, that's all I got. You got anything else, Ashe?
Nope.
All right. Have a great day. Stick around. You've got Daily Herald coming up here at 1. Gordon starting Breaking History. Gordon and Matt Arrett right now. Oh, I just found out I'm going to be on with Heather Mullins at 2:20 on 2:20 Eastern on Lindell TV as well, talking about this story. So if you want to check that out, see you guys later.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.